Today's edition of Broadcast is brought to you by SituationHub.com. Crisis communications better and faster. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Schedule a demo today. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this edition of the Broadcast, where we give you bite-sized bits of best practices to help you be a better leader and a more effective communicator. I'm your host, Gerard Braud, as always on YouTube. If you want more great content, please subscribe. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up. That way your friends know, hey, this is worth us watching. So today we're going to talk about crisis communications and whether or not the PR person in a crisis should have autonomy to issue a news release when it's time to put the news release out versus perhaps micromanagement and too much oversight from a CEO or a board. Now, in a crisis, I've always emphasized from the flashpoint of that crisis to the time that message comes out, the first message has to be less than an hour. But too many organizations wait 2 and 3 hours. What causes that? How do you alleviate it? And what are some of the best practices? Our guest in the masterclass that I was teaching for Situation Hub, which this clip will come from, was Ron Barnes, the CEO of Coast Electric Power Cooperative on the Gulf Coast of Mississippi. He had just experienced Hurricane Zeta at his cooperative, and he is joined by Melissa Russo, his Vice President of Marketing and Public Relations. Let's take a listen.
So we were saying that Facebook is at the speed of instant, and Twitter is at the speed of instant, and we perpetually see organizations that do not have a library of pre-written news releases, or they don't have an automated system like Situation Hub, and they're staring at a blank computer screen and they write for 45 minutes. And no matter how good of a Pulitzer Prize winning writer you are, you take that well-written news release on a piece of paper into the boardroom or to the CEO's office, and it gets torn to shreds, and you go back for draft 2 and draft 3, and 3 hours pass, which in my world is completely unacceptable. Ron, if you and Melissa would weigh in on your relationship of the approval process, and how much autonomy does Melissa have to create something and send it out to the world versus some organizations that are deeply embedded with micromanagement by either a CEO or a general counsel or a board of directors?
Yeah, Jared, I think it really depends on what it is. If it's a crisis situation, Melissa knows that she's got full authority to address quickly the situation, whether it be the public, membership. A little bit of a unique situation because Melissa has told you that I hired her, I trained her, I fully trust her. I put her on my executive team when I stepped up. So I know that she's not going to say something that's going to embarrass the company. When there is time, then certainly I would prefer to look at things that are going to go out to the membership or the public, simply to make sure there's been a second set of eyes on it. I always liked to do that when I was in her role, is just have someone else have a second set of eyes on it. But I do trust her, and she knows that if she needs to make a decision quickly, she has the authority to do that. You've got to be able to treat your communications team the same way you would your engineering or your operations team. Very seldom did I ever see the CEO ask the engineer or the operations team anything about getting a pole back on quickly after, let's say, a car had hit a pole. So why should it be any different when you are communicating, especially if you've done your homework ahead of time? I will say again, one of my famous sayings is make hay while the sun's shining. So don't wait until a crisis situation to try to figure out what you're going to say. If you've got a good set of crisis communications already written, then it's going to make whatever that crisis is seem much less scary to be able to say, okay, these are already pre-approved. Now all I have to do is fill in the blanks with the details and put it out there to the public.
I love your analogy and your comparison to the lineman, because I've tried to make that point a few times in my life. You don't make that lineman, you trust that the lineman is trained.
That's right.
And that they don't have to ask to remove a transformer and put a new one up.
That's right.
Melissa, what are your thoughts regarding autonomy versus micromanagement?
I would say the same, basically echo what Ron said. He definitely is not a micromanager. He gives me full authority, to run my department and to make decisions on my own. Because he does have a communications background, at times I may go to him over certain things, and let him look over or get his advice on certain things because he has that background. But like Ron said, we have this great crisis plan, and it's been reviewed he's reviewed it. He was, in this department, so he was part of creating it. But as we make changes and update every year, he's included in that process and knows, to a certain extent, he's the CEO. It's not his job anymore to have to do that, but he's aware and knows what's going to be communicated in the event a crisis occurs. And we have all that pre-planned, and there's no trying to decide that at the time. So he knows exactly what's going to be said. And I think he can rest assured knowing that we're going to say the right things. And we've planned and prepared for things like that.
So there you have it. Thoughts on autonomy versus oversight that just gets a little too long and makes the entire news release process too slow. As always, if you would like to talk about this, see right there on the screen, use that link to schedule a confidential phone call with me. I'm Gerard Braud, here to help you with your crisis communications needs. Be well.